and welcome to Twitter, Art, and the Internet, using online tools to be a total rock star at advocacy. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And pull up the PowerPoint so we can get started.
Okay, so to begin, we're going to start with a few introductions. My name is Lindsay Brisky. I am the Director of Public Policy for the Alzheimer's Association Michigan chapter.
And I'm Samantha West, Communications Director for the Alzheimer's Association Michigan Great Lakes chapter. What we plan to cover today is we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of Twitter, assuming that most of you have seen Twitter before or maybe set up an account but aren't terribly familiar with it yet. So we're going to cover some things like why you should be on Twitter, talk a little bit about some commonly used Twitter phrases and what they mean, discuss a little bit about how you can use Twitter strategically and specifically for advocacy purposes. We'll share some examples of tweets that are designed for advocacy, and then we'll go over a couple of tools and resources that can help make the tweeting process a little bit easier for you as you're getting started. We'll also have the opportunity for you to ask some questions. We won't be doing that during this webinar because this is a recorded webinar, but we will be happy to answer any questions that you might have via email, and we will be sure to include our contact information at the end of this presentation. We will also do a little bit of a walkthrough of advocacy and some of the tools that are available to you as an advocate that can help you with Twitter, but also in your general public policy apps, including information about your district, your congressman, different bills that are in Congress and the state legislator, and then we'll also do a tour of LZorg, which is the Alzheimer's Association's website. So to kick things off, let's talk a little bit about why you should be using Twitter. First of all, Twitter is a great place to have a conversation. Public policymakers are increasingly using Twitter to communicate with their constituent base quickly and easily. It's becoming a really popular platform because legislators are really busy and tweets are very short and concise, so it's a great way to get in the door. It's also a really quick and easy way for us to communicate with them because, as I mentioned, tweets are only 140 characters long. They're really easy to read and digest and respond to very quickly compared to a letter or an email, which takes a little bit more time for someone to write on your end of things and for your public policy official to read through and respond to. Messages, as I mentioned, are bite-sized, so they're a little bit more likely to be read and responded to. Twitter is also a wonderful way to increase concern and awareness about Alzheimer's, both among our legislators as well as among the people who follow you. And it also allows us a great opportunity to build relationships with our legislators. So one of the questions that we often get is, why not just use Facebook? And I'd like to mention that Facebook is a great tool for you to use too, and you should continue to use Facebook to do some of your public policy work. But Twitter is great because it's better for business and professional interactions. I'll talk a little bit about the process of following people in a minute, but one of the things that's nice about Twitter is that following someone is not necessarily something that happens automatically on both ends of things. So you can follow your public policy maker, and it's not like having a Facebook friend where then you both have to see each other's information. You can choose to follow them, and they don't have to follow you back, which is really nice because it allows you to directly connect with high-profile people. Another thing that's great about Twitter is that, unlike with Facebook, someone from the legislator's staff is monitoring the account pretty much round the clock, and they often respond in real time. They are responding pretty quickly to those messages that you send to them. You're going to see that they'll like or retweet you, usually much faster than you would get that kind of response with other forms of media. Twitter is also great because once you've followed people who you want to see their information in your newsfeed, it allows you to get a really great newsfeed feel from all of those people who you are following and whose information you want to receive in your feed. Twitter is also a wonderful way for you to generate and participate in real-time conversations around popular topics. One example is if you happen to go to the Alzheimer's Advocacy Forum this year in Washington, D.C., there will be a hashtag that is assigned to that event, and if you look up that hashtag on Twitter, you'll be able to see all of the people that are talking about the forum in real time, and you'll be able to participate in that conversation. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So let's get started with some Twitter terminology. First things first, when you sign up for a Twitter account, you'll be asked to create a username or a Twitter handle. You can see in the example that I've included below, I've circled Senator Debbie Stabenow's Twitter handle. You can see off to the left, that's how her name appears, but to the right, in gray, that's circled there, @SenStabenow is her Twitter handle. That's her username that she's created for herself. Now, a good username is usually the same or similar to your own name. If users have already claimed those names, a good trick is to try adding an adjective or descriptor. So, for example, your Twitter username might be @AllsAdvocateBob. If you choose to use a nickname, though, rather than your own name, make sure it's professional and short with no spaces. Tweets are only 140 characters long, so when people are replying to you, if you have a longer Twitter name, you leave them less room for their actual message. Twitter limits your username to just 15 characters for this very reason, but if you can make your username even shorter than that, the shorter the better. So the next thing that I'll point out is a tweet, and this is just very basic. A tweet is just the name of the message that you create on Twitter. It's 140 characters or less. You can see the example that I have below has a number of different items in it. It's got a Twitter handle in there for Rep. Lawrence. It's got some hashtags, which again I'll talk about in a minute, but all you need to know for now is that this entire message is a tweet. The next thing I'll talk about is followers. So a follower is a person who is subscribed to receive your tweets on an ongoing basis. You can see on the lower left that Jason Young has the follow button in white. It's not shaded in, which means that we're not currently following him. You can see, however, that next to his username below his picture, it says that he follows us. So this, again, is an example of how someone can follow you and you don't have to follow them back, or vice versa. On the right, you can see that Brent Oldham follows us, and his box is blue that says following, so that means that we are following Brent. If you're following someone on Twitter, basically all that means is that you're subscribing to get their tweets in your newsfeed. It will appear in your newsfeed, and if people are following you, then they're going to see your tweets in their newsfeed. And they'll see that right when they log into Twitter. I'll do a little tour of that so you can see where that appears. But one thing that's important to note is that you can feel free to unfollow somebody at any time, and you can also block users from following you. So you might have, as you start to use Twitter a little bit more, you might have some spam accounts that will follow you. It's really easy to block those so that you don't have to let that person see your tweets. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, following is not the same as friending on other social networks because following on Twitter isn't mutual. I can follow someone who I think is interesting, but they don't necessarily have to follow me back. So another kind of activity that you can do on Twitter is you can send direct messages. And direct messages are private. They're between two users. And generally speaking, you can only send those direct messages to users who are following you and who you follow back. Some accounts, particularly businesses and probably some of your legislators, have enabled a setting so that they can receive direct messages from anyone, even if they don't follow that person. So you might be able to send direct messages to your legislator, but you're probably most likely just going to be tweeting at them. I just wanted to give a quick overview of what the direct message function is, but you probably won't use it as much as you'll use the other functions in Twitter. So when you reply to somebody, you will hit the little arrow that's circled in red in the example below. A reply is just a response to another user's tweet. And you can do that, like I mentioned, by either clicking on that arrow, or if you've clicked on a tweet and brought it up, you can just start typing in the reply box. Any tweet that reply to you will begin with your username and will show up in your notifications. And when a tweet starts with a username, which, for example, if you just reply to this tweet here, it's going to start with All's Impacts username. The only users who will see that tweet in their timeline are you and the recipient. And if you also have people who follow both you and the recipient, those people will see it as well. But you can change this so anyone can see this tweet that you're replying to. And all you have to do that is to type something before the username. So you can type a period, and that's all you have to do, and then that will automatically show up in your timeline. Or you can type other words or hashtags. Anything can go basically before that username. But that's how you can get that tweet to show up in your timeline on your profile. A mention is another thing that I will bring up here, but it's not something that I'll cover necessarily as essential terminology. But basically, a mention is a tweet that contains another user's username anywhere in the body of the tweet. So a reply is considered a mention, or if you tweet at someone and you include their username in your tweet, that's also a mention. If someone mentions you in a tweet, which means that they just include your username somewhere in their tweet, you'll see that in your notifications tab. The other thing that's important to bring up here about mentions is that you can include multiple usernames in one tweet. So you could create a tweet and you could mention 3 different legislators in the same tweet. There's no limit to how many that you can have. So the next one is a retweet, and basically this is just the act of sharing what someone else has tweeted so all of your followers can see it in their timeline. This is a great way to share information from an organization or a Twitter account that has a lot of activity. For example, the Alzheimer's Association is tweeting all the time, and a great way to put some content out there to your followers is to just retweet any of their tweets. You can see how to do that by looking at where the red circle has surrounded the little recycle button. If you just click on that, it'll automatically retweet that tweet to all of your followers. Now, another thing that you can do with retweet is you can then add your own comments to that tweet. So if you wanted to retweet this and say, can't wait for Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, you could do that. And basically when you add your own comments to a retweet, that's what we call a quote tweet, because the original tweet will be quoted and your comments will be added to it. The other thing that's great about retweets is that you can retweet your own tweets. So you could go back to your profile and look at a tweet that you sent out a month ago and hit the retweet button and then just reshare that or repost it to your followers again. I would recommend not doing that too frequently, so if you've tweeted something last week, I wouldn't retweet it quite yet, but if it's about a month old, I think it's probably fine to retweet that to your followers. The next thing I'll mention is a like. A like is exactly the same as it is on Facebook. It just shows appreciation for a tweet that someone's created. You can like any tweets that are of interest to you without necessarily having to re-share them with your followers. And all you have to do for that is click the little heart button. It'll turn red, confirming that you have liked that tweet. Last but not least on our terminology, we have the hashtag. A hashtag is a word or phrase that starts with the pound symbol, and it's a keyword or topic that allows similar tweets to be searched. You can see in the example on the lower left that I've included the hashtags AllsForum and EndAlls. And as I mentioned, if you're at an event, a lot of times they will have a hashtag set up for people to use so that they can group all of those conversations together. You can see in the example on the right, this is just a quick search that I've done of the hashtag EndAlls. And when I search for that, it pulls up every tweet that has that hashtag in it. So it's a great way for you to see what other people are talking about around a particular topic. Now, if you click or tap on any hashtag words in a tweet, that's also a way for you to pull up all of the hashtags that are similar to that one. You don't necessarily have to do that in the search bar. You can just click on that hashtag and it'll bring all of the tweets, including that hashtag, up automatically for you. Now, one thing that's important to note about hashtags is that you can't have any spaces or punctuation in a hashtag or it won't work properly. The other thing that's important to note is that if you tweet with a hashtag, anybody who does a search for that hashtag could find your tweet. So just know that if you include a hashtag, that tweet is going to be public to anybody who searches for that hashtag later. It's generally recommended that you include no more than 2 hashtags per tweet as a best practice, because otherwise then that just leaves that much less room for your actual message. But there's no limit to how many hashtags you can use, so if you want to use 3 or 4, you're welcome to do that. Just know that that'll mean that the rest of your message will have to be shorter. So let's move on to how you can use Twitter strategically. The first example is that you can mention Alzheimer's or the Alzheimer's Association right in your Twitter profile. This is a great way that if you have that in there and somebody searches for you or you're retweeting something and they're curious about who you are, when they pull up your profile, they'll see any hashtags that are relevant or any usernames that are relevant right immediately when they look at your profile. So what you could use as an example is you could have your Twitter profile read an @AllsMGLC advocate on a mission to #EndAlls. And then anybody could click on AllsMGLC and it would pull up the chapter Twitter account, or they could click on that #EndAlls right from your profile and it would take them to those hashtags. Another way that's great to strategically use Twitter is to use that search function that I mentioned. You can use it to find hashtags, but you can also use it to find and follow your legislators. There's a Twitter handout that you will have received in your inbox, or if you haven't received it, you can shoot us an email and we'll be happy to send it to you. And it's got a list of all of the usernames for your policymakers in the state of Michigan. But if you can't find anybody on that list, or you're looking for policymakers that are perhaps in another state, you can find them by using that search bar. You can also use Twitter to read what that person is up to. Once you've found and followed your legislator, we encourage you to reply to them, even if they're not necessarily talking about Alzheimer's disease. If they've tweeted something that's of interest, it's great to just send them a quick reply and say, thank you for your work on this, on this effort, or you could talk to them about anything else that might be of interest. You could say something like, this is great, what are your plans to discuss issues for seniors? You can just use what they've tweeted to start conversations by hitting that reply button. We also encourage you to retweet them or share their tweets with your followers. And again, it doesn't have to be about Alzheimer's. I think this is a great way to build a relationship with your legislators because they love getting those retweets. The more that people are retweeting them, the more their messages are being shared with people out in the Twitterverse. We also encourage you to use Twitter to tweet at them, thank them, educate them, and tell them about upcoming events or initiatives, as well as to make policy asks. And we'll give you some more information about what types of content to create in a minute when Lindsay gives you a walkthrough of some of those public policy resources that are available. But just keep in mind that our legislators don't know as much about Alzheimer's disease as we do as Alzheimer's advocates and ambassadors and people who have lived this disease and have experienced it on a day-to-day basis. So it's a great way to stay engaged with your policymakers, to just share facts and figures with them about Alzheimer's disease. Share links to interesting articles or information about the latest resource. This is a great way for you to educate them in a really quick and easy fashion. We also encourage you to tweet photos or videos and include links to articles, as I mentioned. Make sure that you're using those hashtags. If you're ever wondering what hashtags to include in a tweet, you can just do a quick search for hashtags to see if something exists. Or the Alzheimer's Association Twitter account is always using relevant hashtags, and you can look up to see what hashtags they're using. For example, during Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, they might be using a specific hashtag to try to encourage people to go purple during the month of June. If you look up the Alzheimer's Association's account, you should be able to see any hashtags that they're using. And last but not least, and we're going to show you a little bit about how to use art in a minute, make sure that you report any tweets that you're sending to your legislators that are specific to Alzheimer's disease or the Alzheimer's Association in our Alzheimer's reporting system. So now we'll jump into some examples, and I'll show you a couple of different tweets and break down some of the different parts of them that I've already talked about here. So on the left, you can see that Jason Young has created a tweet with a picture that says, thank you, Right Rep. Mike Rogers for co-sponsoring the PCHETA Act. He included a link, which I'm assuming is to something that pertains to that legislation, and he's included the hashtag #endall. This is just a really great example of how you can thank someone for sponsoring a piece of legislation, and if you're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to meet with them in person, including a picture, asking them to take a quick selfie before you leave and then tweeting it is a great way to keep that conversation going. On the upper right, you can see that I have tweeted at Rep. Brenda Lawrence. I've included a period before her username so that it shows up in my Twitter feed so that all of my followers can see it. And that tweet says, please help us, #GoPurple4, #TheLongestDay today. 180,000 Michiganders 65 plus are living with, that's what the W/ stands for, #Alzheimer's. RT or retweet to spread awareness. So this tweet has a bunch of different parts to it. It's got the username in there. It's got some hashtags, 3 different ones. It's got a stat about Alzheimer's disease and a call to action, which is to retweet to help spread awareness. And I'll mention also that you can see underneath this tweet, you can see the little heart has a number 3 next to it. That means that that tweet has been favorited 3 times or liked 3 times. And then in the lower right corner, Lindsay Brisky retweeted a tweet from the Alzheimer's Association, and you can see this is just what a retweet looks like if you're sharing that to your followers. This is a tweet, again, from the Alzheimer's Association. It includes the Twitter handle and hashtag, and Lindsay's just retweeted that so all of her followers can see it as well. On the upper left here, you can see that Lindsay has shared a link. This is an example of what that looks like. There will usually be a little preview of that link below your tweet. Again, she's included a period before the username of Rep. Wahlberg so that that tweet is showing up in her timeline to all of her followers. She's included a couple of abbreviations here, which I'll note. So PLS is a common way that people on Twitter will abbreviate the word please. There are a few others that you'll see on Twitter. If you're ever curious what abbreviations mean, you can just Google Twitter abbreviations, and there are a number of websites that will show you lists of what those stand for. But some common things, which really people just use to keep their tweets short, include PLS for please. You can see in Roger's tweet below, he uses TY for thank you. Some other examples include using the number 2 for the word to, T-O-O, the number 4 for the word for, BC for because, etc. And contrary to what a lot of grammarians out there in listening to this webinar might believe, on Twitter, this is fine and accepted and actually encouraged. So please feel free to use those abbreviations and just do a little Googling if you're not sure what something means. And then last, in the bottom tweet there, Roger just says that he is pleased to have attended a congressional roundtable focusing on Alzheimer's and other dementias. He includes that thank you, and he tags 2 different people. You can see he's mentioned 2 different users in his tweet and included the hashtag #endall. So before I start doing a little Twitter demo, what I would like to share is a couple of tools that might be handy to you as you're starting to explore the world of Twitter and advocacy tweets. Hootsuite is one of my favorites, and basically what Hootsuite allows you to do is a totally free tool that allows you to create posts in advance and schedule them for later. So if you wanted to sit down on a Friday morning for an hour and just create a whole bunch of tweets and schedule them to go out periodically throughout the coming week, you don't have to be tweeting those in real time. You can just have them automatically go out, and you don't have to even think about it. It's just something that can be auto-scheduled. Hootsuite is also nice because it allows you to post to multiple social networks at once. So, for example, you could post something to both Facebook and Twitter in one fell swoop. The second tool that I will mention is Buffer. Buffer is similar to Hootsuite, but is great for links. So it allows you to save links from various websites with just a simple click. There's a little thing that's similar to a pin it button that you can install right on your web browser. So anytime you're on a website with a link you want to share, you can just click the button and it'll automatically save that link to a queue and auto-post them for you. The next one that I'll share is Canva.com. Canva is a wonderful free drag and drop graphic design tool. Most of the images on Canva are completely free. There are a couple of photos that you do have to pay for, but they're really affordable. They're only $1 an image. However, I would just say that you don't really have to spend any money to use Canva. You can just create graphics, infographics, or anything that you want to include, maybe a picture with a quote on top of it. You can just use Canva to do that really quickly and easily. And then the last one I'll mention is webresizer.com, which just allows you to resize a photo really quickly and easily for sharing on social media. So if you happen to take a picture at an event using a really good quality camera, for example, and the picture was too large to share, you could upload it at webresizer.com, and it would give you a really nice small bite-sized one that you could then post to Twitter or Facebook or any other social media tool. So now I'm going to exit out of our PowerPoint, and I'm going to go over to our demo area, where I'm going to show you a couple of different websites that you can use as you're getting started with Twitter. The first one is just the Twitter interface, and I'm going to just give you a quick tour of what that looks like. So when you first log into Twitter, this is what you'll see. In the middle, this is your news feed, where you can see all of the tweets from the different people that you have chosen to follow. You can see, you can get back to this page at any time by clicking on this home button in the upper left-hand corner. To the right of that is the Moments button. Basically, this is just anything that's a popular topic on Twitter right now. This is probably not an area that you will use a ton, but it's something that you're free to explore if you want to. This is a really handy part of Twitter to note. This is where your notifications will appear. You can see this is highlighted in blue because this is telling me that I've had 4 new people that have followed me since I last logged into Twitter. If somebody likes your tweet, like you can see here in the second example, Rep. Debbie Dingle liked a tweet that we created, and Ashley, one of our followers, also liked that tweet. You'll see that here. If somebody retweets you, you'll see this here. And this is just basically where you can find all of that information, anything that's happened since the last time you logged in. Here's where you can access those direct messages. Again, you probably won't use these a ton. Most of the direct messages you'll get on Twitter will just be accounts saying, thanks for following me. It's not something that, will be super helpful for you as you're getting started, but if you are sending direct messages to somebody or having a private conversation with them, this is where you would find those. And then last but not least, here in the search Twitter bar is where you can do things like search for the hashtag #endalls, and it will pull up all of those tweets that mention endalls in them. This is also where you can search for your representatives so that you can tweet at them. And then what I will do now is I will give you an example of how to create a tweet by doing a sample tweet right here for you. So if you want to create a tweet, really easy way to do that is just click this tweet button. It might not be green for you. It might be a different color depending on how you've set up your Twitter profile to appear, but it's always there in the upper right-hand corner. And you can see because I'm searching for the tweet or for the hashtag #endalls, it's appeared automatically right in the tweet for me, which is kind of handy. But if it doesn't appear, you can just type it in yourself. So I'm going to do a tweet here, and I will say, Senator Debbie Stabenow, thank you for your support of the HOPE Act, hashtag #endalls. So I've included a period before her username so it shows up to my Twitter followers. I could also put any other text before her username and it would have the same effect. And then I just included my text here to her. You can see I have 75 characters left to go, so I could make this tweet longer if I wanted to, but I think this is all I'm going to say for now. I've included my thank you and I've included my hashtag, so all I have to do is hit tweet. And it says your tweet was posted. So now with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lindsay, and she's going to show you how you might take that tweet and report it in art.
Great. So the next website here that we have pulled up is ART, which is alzadvocacy.org. You don't have to worry about the stuff that's showing up after the backslash here. That will just pop up once you've logged in. So a couple of things to point out on this page here. There are a tally right here of most recent actions, and these are things that are happening all across the country. So it's pretty exciting to just log in and see that all of these actions are happening. This can be very inspirational for you too and give you some ideas of how you can be an even better advocate. Some different things you might try as an advocate. Feel free to click on the View button here, and you can look at the report that was placed in ART and get more details. I'd also like to point out this News and Announcements section. Again, if you're looking for some content or inspiration, look in the News and Announcements section. This is updated as current things are happening, so you can take a look here, get information about what's happening and what would be great things to reach out to your legislators about, as well as some resources for you to take a look. Now, I'm going to show you how to report your tweet first, and then we'll look at a few other features in ART. So to report your tweet, you will hover over the word report, and then hover over the word and click federal. Now, we just tweeted at Debbie Dingle, so you can click right here to select Debbie Dingle. However, if you don't see your representative or you tweeted at someone else that's not listed, you can always hit My Representative is Not Listed, and then select the state, which is Michigan, and hit Next, and it will show you all of the representatives in Michigan. For us, since we are reporting this tweet for Debbie Dingle, we'll select Debbie Dingle, though, and we'll hit Next. Now, the next thing to do is to put in the action date. So you'll select the date that you tweeted or any other type of advocacy that you did, if it was an event, a meeting, et cetera, et cetera. For a tweet, you'll select Personalized Messages, and then on this drop-down menu, we'll scroll down and select Tweet. Now, what I like to do is go right over to the tab where Twitter is and open up the tweet that we just did. So you can go back to Home and pull up your tweet. We've had a few other tweets coming in the past few minutes here. That's very exciting. So another way to get to your tweets is to just click this Tweet button, and it will show you all of the tweets that you just did. So here is the tweet that we just did. This is for Senator Stabenow, not Debbie Dingle. My apologies. So we will go back and edit this. But let's use the Control-C button to copy this tweet. You can close that. And then you'll go right back to the tab that has ART. And then Control-V is to paste. Control and the V key. Then you'll hit Save. And in this box, if the member of Congress responded, please enter the response here. Most of the time, it hasn't happened yet, so I just say not yet. And then hit Next. And you'll know that your tweet was reported correctly when this page pops up and says, thank you for submitting your report. Now, if you need to go back in and edit your report, you can use this button to go back in and make any edits. You can also go ahead and report a new action by selecting that button. And I'd like to point out on the few other resources and information about ART. So under the Resources section, you can see I'm hovering over Resources here. You can see resources for advocates, and these other sections are mostly for special categories of staff or individuals. So if you are an ambassador, you can click on the Ambassador tab. These other chapter staff and AIM program are for staff. But everyone who can log into ART can click on the Advocate button for advocate resources. Now when you click here, you'll see there's News, which is our Advocates Guide is available. It's a wonderful tool. I'd encourage you to click on that. You can also see upcoming advocacy events. You can see helpful tools for district office meetings right here, legislator's handout. I would like to point out on this page that anything that is red and underlined is a hyperlink. It will either take you to a web page or will open up a document to download that you can print and bring to a meeting. Or bring anywhere. This is a great place also that you can, again, copy and paste from to get content for tweeting. Then I'd also like to point out a couple other features in ART before moving on. Under the search function, you have the capacity to learn some interesting things about your legislator right here in ART. And this is a tool that is really helpful as you're getting to know your legislators and getting to know what's most important to them. So you can click Search by Member of Congress, and then start to type in. I'm going to search for my congressman, which is LZorg. And as I start to type in his name, he pops up right there, Rep. Tim LZorg. And you can hit search. And now you'll see his picture, his official website, his GovTrack profile, VoteSmart profile. These are all sites that give you more background information. You can also see his Twitter and Facebook pages and YouTube pages even. Right here you can click to see the map of the district, see what's included in his district. You can also see any information about his committee membership and other committees that may not be related to Alzheimer's, but that you could talk to him about to really build rapport. Here are our current asks, which is great because this is a one-stop shop to get some information about your congressman and what to talk to him about in Twitter or in a meeting or anytime you see him. You can also grab some of these key facts and use this as Twitter resources. So the search button in ART is a very helpful tool that I would encourage you to check out. Now to get back to ART, you can just hit this home button and it takes you right back to the home page in ART where you can report other actions and gather other resources. So we'll wait for us to go back to ART here. There we go. So feel free to also check out the My Page section here. My Page is where you can get information about what you've done. You can see this is the report that we just did for Debbie Dingle. You can open up a PDF of that report here. You can also see the total points. The points are 1 point for each tweet, and they will be made from 0 to 1 once it's approved by a staff member. So usually I would allow a couple of days for your tweet to be approved. We try to stay on top of that. And the points are really not an important thing to keep in mind. It's mostly for staff to keep track of. So that's our tour of ART. So I'm going to move on and show you some other helpful tools for learning more about your congressman and your district and helping you to be prepared as an advocate. So the next site that I'd like to show you is GovTrack. Now, govtrack.us is a site that you can get a lot of information about members of Congress. Now, you can see up here in the URL that this is govtrack.us/congress/members/MI#. And that directs us directly to Michigan. You can just go to govtrack.us and get to the main page of the site where you would get information about all legislators in the U.S. Now you can see, first of all, our senators are right here, so you can see their term, you can see when their next election will be, and you can also click on their picture to get information about them. So this is helpful information that might give you more talking points or strategy ideas about how to get in with this member and how to talk to them about Alzheimer's in the most relevant and effective way. You can see about bills, committee membership, their voting record even, and other sources and resources on this page. So you can also see their picture. I would also point out that it's a good thing to know what your member of Congress looks like, especially if you're going to Capitol Hill with us to the Advocacy Forum. You might see this person in the hallway, and it's always great to have an impromptu advocacy meeting. So now if you just use the back key to go back, it brings us back to where we were on the site. You can click Representatives as well, just like our senators, and can click on any one of these pictures to get more information about the member of Congress. Now, since our representatives have districts, you can also get their district information here on this site. And this is very helpful, especially if you're trying to build your team. So by going back to Representatives, you can see right here, View District Map. This is where it shows you the district map. So you can see for the 1st congressional district, it's a pretty huge congressional district, and this shaded area is all in the 1st congressional district. If you want to see a map of all of the districts in the state, you can click on Map of Congressional Districts, and it shows you that picture and the breakdown of all of the districts. You can double-click to zoom in and can scroll around on this map to get a closer look. The next site that I'd like to show you to get more information about your congressman is your congressman's website. And for example's sake, I'm going to show you Congressman Conyers' website. Now, Congressman Conyers' website is just conyers.house.gov. Most members of the House of Representatives have the same format for their website. It's their last name, .house.gov. Now, if there's more than one person with that same last name in Congress, it may be a little different. But most of the time, by searching for this site, the last name, .house.gov, you can find your congressman's website pretty easily. This is a great place to get a little bit more personal information about your congressman. Under the About section, you can get a biography, even a detailed biography here, more about their caucuses and committees, and then extra things like events. You can find out more about the district. This is even more in-depth than just a map of the district, but what actually exists in the district. This might be a place to find more team members and a place to connect with your congressman again. These are some of the services under this tab that the Congressman's office offers. It's always good to know these information just to have a little more understanding. Resources, again, helpful information for you as a constituent, a voter in this district. Under the Issues tab, you can see the most pertinent issues to this legislator. This is a great place to look and to get some more background so you're prepared to talk in depth with your congressman. And legislation, this is, again, where you'll find information about bills that the congressman has sponsored or co-sponsored, the schedule, recess, really information about bills happening in Congress and bills that have been passed. And then lastly, the press section gives you current things happening, and the contact section is where you'll find information like your congressman's email address and information about their offices. I'd like to point out on the Offices tab, when you click that, it will show you that they have a Washington, D.C. office. Every member of Congress has a Washington, D.C. office, as well as at least one district office. Most congressmen have more than one district office, depending on their geography. This is a great place where you can drop by and provide information and get to know the staff in these offices, because those are key door openers for you. So I would encourage you to stop by and get to know the district office staff. Now I'm going to move on and switch gears for just a moment to talk a little bit about the Michigan Legislature site. Now this website is legislature.mi.gov. This website is a helpful tool for learning about bills that are happening in our state legislature. These are the things that are being passed in Lansing and that affect Michigan residents only. This website has a ton of information and has the ability for you to become a registered member. It's great to register on this site because then you will get updates of bills when they've been introduced, when they have been passed or moved out of committee, and when registering you can set up alerts. So for instance, you could get an alert every time there's a bill related to the word dementia or has that keyword dementia in the search bar. So just for an example, under legislative bill search for this session, you can put in bill content the word seniors and hit the enter key. These are all of the most recent bills that have the word seniors in them as a keyword. There are tons of bills passed in the state legislature and in Congress, but as you may already know, many of these bills will not become law. It takes a long process for these actually to become law. It's really great just to have this as background information and to stay connected to what's happening in our state legislature. So now I'm going to move on to our next site here, which is congress.gov. Now, congress.gov is very much like the legislature.mi site that I just showed you, but this is for Congress. These are bills that are happening in Washington, D.C., and that affect our entire country. Now, this is the actual Library of Congress website. You can get get a ton of information on this site. You can also search, and it's quite advanced and streamlined when you need it to be. So for our sake, I'm going to show you how to search for the Hope for Alzheimer's Act. So I'm going to type right in this search bar, Hope for Alzheimer's, and hit enter. Now, sometimes this site is a little slow, but here it goes. So the Hope for Alzheimer's Act comes up here right in front of us. So you can click right on that hyperlink, HR 1559, to pull up the bill and get a lot more information here about the bill. So here you can see a summary of the Health Outcomes Planning and Education for Alzheimer's Act, or HOPE Act. You can see the actual bill text by clicking on text. You can also click on the co-sponsors section of this website, which I think is especially helpful. You can see right here that there are 307 co-sponsors on this bill. Great work, advocates. That was no small feat. You can scroll down on the left-hand side here and select Michigan. This will show you just the co-sponsors for the HOPE Act in Michigan. Again, this is a very helpful tool if you're trying to see if your legislator is supporting a bill at this point. You can get a lot more information like action, amendments to the bill, what committees this bill will be going through. So feel free to explore and dig into this website more. Again, there's a ton of information here, and it's really at your fingertips. It's exciting that we really can get anything we need as far as information about bills just by going to the Library of Congress website. So next, I'm going to scroll over and show you the House of Representatives website briefly. Now, the House of Representatives website is really just that, their website with information about what's happening today and what's planned for the future. You can get the schedule of what's happening in Congress right now, floor proceedings. This is what's scheduled to happen on the floor of the House. You can also watch live here. This is an exciting part to click on if there's a committee happening, for instance, that you're interested in. You can also get more information about leadership, committees, legislative activity, which includes the calendar and recess calendar. You can look at other things happening in the House of Representatives, such as Visitor Center, Kids Center. It's a great place to check, and again, just a wealth of information. Now, before moving away from this site, I do want to point out, up on the upper right-hand section of the page here, you can put in your zip code to locate your representative. As you build your team, you might want to clarify if someone is in that particular voting district. So go ahead and put in your zip code and hit go, and it will tell you if your team member is in your district. So next I want to show you the Alzheimer's Impact Movement. Now, the Alzheimer's Impact Movement is the Alzheimer's Association's sister organization, and this is an organization that is created just for doing advocacy. They are an organization that helps get important face time with key elected officials, and they have the same priorities as the Alzheimer's Association as far as our policy priorities. They are just only focused on advocacy and public policy and not a care and support organization. This is a site that I'd encourage you to take a look at. If you're interested in doing more for Alzheimer's advocacy, I would encourage you to look at the membership for becoming a member for AIM. It's only $20 a year to become a member, and will really give you some inside scoop about Alzheimer's disease in Congress. You can contribute to AIM here. You can also subscribe to get a weekly AIM roundup right here and get more information about AIM, their policies, handouts. They have a very helpful blog that gives you some current information. Again, great content to share, like, or copy and paste to use as a tweet. So that gives you some helpful resources and websites for doing advocacy. And I want to conclude by showing you one more helpful resource for Alzheimer's advocacy, and a tool really to help you in many other ways as well. ALZ.org is our association website, and this website has a lot of information for people in all stages of the Alzheimer's journey, whether you are a caregiver for a person that has this disease or you have the disease yourself. You can really find some support and information here. You can check out, under the Alzheimer's and Dementia tab, more about the disease, including clinical studies and publications. You can also look at any of these other links. Again, great content to share with your legislator. Most likely your legislator does not know what the 10 warning signs are or the stages of Alzheimer's disease. This would be a great place to gather information to share and educate your legislator. Under the Life with Alz tab, you can get information for people that may have the disease. If you have Alzheimer's, if you have younger onset Alzheimer's, if you're a caregiver, if you're a kid or a teen and is facing this disease with a loved one. You can also get information on Social Security, healthcare reform, and diverse communities. Under the research section, this will take you to a separate website that gives you more information about the latest research happening in Alzheimer's disease. You'll also get information about conferences or events, and this is a great place to make sure to share with your legislator so they understand that the investment in research is making a difference. The professional section, again, more information that you can click on and get more information about for researchers, for care providers, public health officials, and please check out the Community Resources Finder. This will help you find local resources for things that you might need as a caregiver or a person with this disease. Again, this is local, so this is updated here in Michigan. Lastly, I'd like to point out the Advocate section of the website. The Advocate section has a lot of similar information than what's on ART, but we also have here some additional resources, what our top priorities are, more information about the forum. You can also see here, if you hover over this image, since we're logged into Hootsuite right now, you can click on this little button, Hootlet, and save this image to tweet it or use it on social media. So it's a very convenient way to do social media by just using our website. So I think this concludes our tour of websites, and I would like to just show now our contact information for those of you that may have questions. Here are our website or our email addresses so that you can reach out. Sean Robertson is listed here. He is our Director of Advocacy in Washington, D.C., and would be a great person to reach out to for any particular public policy questions. But really, any one of us are happy to take questions. Please contact us if you have any questions, and happy tweeting to all of you. Best of luck.